Hello and good morning. I am so excited to be here with everyone today. We are going to be having our Becoming Well Summit. So, today we are going to be talking to two of my favorite wellness professionals. These women are wonderful and amazing at what they do. But I really want to welcome you, right? This is the Becoming Well Summit presented by Becoming Enriched. My name is Monique, and I am the CEO of Becoming Enriched. So today is really a nice, easy day to take time and take stock into what is important to us and how we really do value, right, ourselves and our progress in moving forward. Personal development is something that takes time, and it's something that definitely takes work. I know it has been even harder this year in 2020 because 2020 has been rough, like rougher than we all ever imagined. However, right, it takes work, right? No matter what the circumstance, no matter how easy the year has been, right? We all have to put in that work to make sure that we are getting to where we want to go. And so I just want to welcome you and say thank you all for taking the time, right, for yourselves. Thank you for taking the time to listen and to participate. So, we are going to start off the Becoming Well Summit with a meditation. Right? It's always really important that we get our minds clear and in a space to be able to absorb information. And so, we're just going to take a nice, big, deep breath together. Inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. And so I want you to think about everything that you have wanted for yourself, everything that you have wanted this year, and just put that in your mind's eye. What have you been hoping for? What have you been wishing for? And breathe. Inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. What changes are you thinking about making in your life? They can be big, they can be small. It's completely up to you. Think about how you want to present to yourself this day. What change do you want to see in your outside life? What changes do you want to see in your community? What changes do you want to see in your country? And how can you embody that change? And a big inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. And we're here for personal development because growth feels better. We feel joy when we grow. Sometimes we can even feel frustration when we grow. We can feel laughter and love and excitement and fear when we find growth. Accept all of those emotions and breathe. And so now I want you to clear your mind. Let all the thoughts just drop away one by one. Open yourself up to a new way of thinking. Open yourself up to learning new skills. Open yourself up to being educated about things you never even imagined. Change comes in the smallest of moments. And one more big, deep inhale and exhale. And slowly pat your eyes open. Wonderful. Right? And now we are in a space to be able to learn, to be able to accept, to be open. And so I'm going to be bringing on our first guest. Her name is Kimberlyn Harris, and she is the owner and creator of Artfully Healed. So let's go ahead and bring on. Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I am well.
Wonderful. So I am so excited to have you here today. I knew that when I wanted to do this, you were one of the first people I thought about because I was like, yes, right. We're going to start this off with some creativity. We're going to start this off with somebody who like definitely knows the space. I remember the first time we met when I moved to Charlotte, it was like the first day or something like that. And we started talking. He was like just the way you talked about your business and just creativity and how that blended with wellness. I was like, girl, that's it. That's it. So I'm so happy that you decided to accept my invitation. Thank you so much for being here.
Yes, thank you for inviting me. And that's what is just so amazing when you did during the meditation of the thoughts of where do you see yourself and where do you see your journey going? And sometimes people think that you have to have a destination, but sometimes it's even better to just be open to what the universe brings. And it's always reflective and very, very much a gratitude moment because this didn't exist 2 years ago. And to be having a platform that was given to me that I can talk about is really truly what happens when you open yourself up to all the amazing opportunities and all the creative and talents and gifts that you have, and creating space for that to become.
Yeah. Absolutely. So I do want to tell people just a little bit about your business, right? So Artfully Healed creates a catalyst for communities, businesses, and nonprofits to ignite through conversations, unite diversity, and transform healing, right? They recognize the importance of creating spaces of connection across physical and digital landscapes, which digital is so important now that we are in this new coronavirus type of lifestyle, right? And so the communities through a theme-centered events, online learning, and group sessions, right? Kimberlyn believes that by opening spaces for artistic exploration that illustrate authentic connections, we can design and cultivate change from a more intentional place. And so I'm going to give you the floor. I'm so excited to hear what you have to say.
No, it's amazing. Thank you, beautiful person. I knew from the first day we met that you feel that people are going to have a presence and you don't know what, but I always felt that just that energy from you. So I appreciate that.
Yeah,
Go ahead and throw up the first slide.
yeah, absolutely.
So I am Kimberlyn, as she stated, in Charlotte as well. And Artfully Healed was born out of a dire need. I am a consultant by trade and artistic by with my passion. And so I wanted to create a lifestyle that reflected my creative nature. And this gift was given to me as an answer to that prayer. And so today's conversation, although we're still working on how to have creative activities digitally, this more is just sharing my story, sharing kind of how it came to be, and leaving you with some inspiration to also start on your journey. I want to see who's out there. So, can I get some interaction in the chat? Some places you guys are from. If you're from Charlotte, if you're from elsewhere, I would love to see some activity in the chat of where you're from so that I know everyone is awake and ready. So, I'll wait for that to start up. And then I know Monique is bringing up the first slide.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. This is my first time working StreamYard, so bear with me, guys.
So, while she's doing that, I will kind of share. There's a quote on my first slide. And I love this quote. When I heard this quote, it resonated so deeply with me. And I tried to find the source of the quote so that I can attribute it to the artist, but it seems to be one of those quotes where it's gotten changed so much over the years that no one really knows they know the origination of it, but it looks nothing like the original. And so the quote that I chose to share with you is you see when shown, or you never see. And I feel that is so important because a lot of times for me, I think I do two parts. I either see or I see when shown. And see when shown is probably where most of my journey has begun because it was something that resonated with me that gave me inspiration for the next steps. And so for me, and I love that quote because it just speaks to that sometimes you don't always have the answers. Sometimes you're not born with the answers. Sometimes it's because someone has shown you a way. And I think that my conversation today is just a little bit of that. I'm going to show you what I did. And my number one goal of sharing a little bit of my story is because I was pretty and broken. And I didn't know I was pretty and broken. I just thought that I was sad. And I lived in a sadness for a large part of my life that I didn't know the history of. I didn't know how to fix it. And there were a lot of days that I just wanted to give up. And a large part of my story is that I share is the pivot for me. And my number one goal is if there's one person that hears this, sees it later, and is at that point where they want to just give up, I just want to encourage one person to don't quit. And if I had quit a long time ago, things would be very differently now. So my goal is one person, if you hear me, don't give up. And there's always hope and there's always another step, even if it's a baby step. And so, Monique, we ready? Still waiting. Well, I'm going to go ahead and talk and share a little bit of my story. So there was a picture, and you'll see it in the slides when the slides come up, of when selfies first started taking hold, like people just started taking selfies, figuring out what selfies, which way to hold your camera and hold it at this angle and take people. There was a lot of selfies in the car when selfies first came out. And then you had the selfie stick and help you do your selfie. And so I was just in that not feeling really great about how I looked phase. And so for me, taking a selfie, I didn't like to take pictures at all. And taking a selfie was just like the ultimate version of not wanting to take a selfie. And so I know that she's bringing up my file now, so I'll let her get that up and running. So let's see. All right, so that's the first slide. And if we can go to the second slide. So this then is when I decided that you need to go ahead and start taking selfies. You need to celebrate where you are in your journey. I had gained weight and I wasn't feeling very, very pretty. And I wasn't feeling like I wanted to share what I looked like. And as part of my desire to be better, I was thinking you need to celebrate where you are right now. Like not when you're going to lose the weight, not when you're going to have, the guy, not when you're going to have the next job, but right now, and start celebrating. So I went through this phase of taking selfies in the car, on the days that I was like super made up, my hair was done. And so this then picture is one of those first days where I started taking selfies to celebrate where I was. And the selfie was taken, this is 2014. And the next one is 2017. So in 3 years, I went from then to now, and it was a huge transformation, not from a weight perspective. So I don't want to talk about the weight perspective, even though some of that was a catalyst for my change. It was literally a journey to worthiness. I went from not feeling worthy because I never found a way to figure that out for myself. And the story goes that I was asked during working with a coach how I felt about morning affirmations. So I would love to hear in the chat if anyone does morning affirmations, if they speak to you, if you want to know more information about it. But morning affirmations changed my life. And I was asked to do morning affirmations every day and to say certain phrases until I believed them. So when I see this picture of then to now, this literally was my journey to worthiness, because one of the first things that I challenged myself with was saying the words, I am worthy, in the mirror every morning. And I didn't know, which I've shared this story on other platforms and on my own social media, I didn't know I didn't feel worthy. And that became the door for me of resolving that right there. And I didn't know what to do with it. So I just did as I was told. So you see when you're shown, right? I was shown that I didn't feel it. So that was an opportunity for me to walk into that. And so that journey started a 2-year journey, 3-year journey, still on this journey of transformation for me. And I wanted to share that because some people are meeting me in this right now, mindset, this right now excitement, this right now passion, multi-passionate entrepreneur, traveling consultant, doing the thing, doing all the things. And they don't know where I came from and they don't know my then to know why I celebrate so boldly my now. And I wanted to share that with you before we kind of jump in and get started. So next slide, Monique. So question for you is, a large part of my life, I knew that I had this thing locked inside of me. And a lot of what Artfully Healed does is we create spaces of conversation around important topics. When we start meeting on a regular basis in person, we hope to transfer some of these sessions into more of an artistic session. But right now we just have to work with what we have. So you're going to have to let me know the answers to these questions. But Do you have a passion, right? Do you have that thing that if financial obligations were not a factor in how you worked, how you lived, you would do this, you will wake up to do this freely without compensation? That is a passion, right? That is truly something. Now, we don't work for free, but this is something, and I can give you an example. I'm a tech consultant and I take on pro bono clients for nonprofits to help them with their mission. This is something that if I had another source of income that I didn't have to worry about making, let's say, i.e., lottery or residual income, which I'm working on, right? Residual income that I don't have to sit at a environment from 9 to 5. I'm going to spend my time helping nonprofits with their technical needs. That is a passion of mine. That's something that I do now. So I think that's important because it requires to involve your heart into something that actually gives you something back. And I think it's important to ponder those types of questions as you're looking to get from here to there. Second one, know your strengths. So, what are you good at, right? What is the thing that makes you you? What is the thing that in a growth strategy? So I have a growth strategy that I use. I take the number one thing that I'm good at and I do more of it. So won't be hard to guess, but my number one gift, strength, is communication. So when I learned that officially, I took a test and learned that, it said do more of it in more ways. So this is a form of my development. Coming on to an environment like this and speaking into a screen, speaking with passion, speaking so that I am coming from a heart-centered place and you can feel what I'm saying and getting better. I'm practicing, until it's CNN, until it's, any of the news stations, until it's Oprah. I'm practicing because that is a strength and I'm going to keep getting better every time I do it. So know your strengths. And then every growth strategy needs to have a basement. So my basement is a tantrum. So I've given myself a tantrum rule when things are not going right, because it's great to come on and say, oh, everybody should do this. Everybody should be happy. Everybody can do this to be, operating in their gifts. Everyone can have the strategy, but some days it just sucks. It just sucks. And I like to have a tantrum plan. And my tantrum plan, because as I shared earlier, I have moments of sadness, but I don't devote whole days to sadness. I've done it. I've lived it. So no more of that. So my tantrum plan is you get 24 hours, right? Something goes to kaput and you're not feeling it, or it's just really, really bad. You get 24 hours. That's it. That's it. And it's done and we're over and we're moving on. So that's helped me because I know that when I start feeling that slide, right? When that slide comes on and you're like, it's just getting worse and worse and worse and worse. I know I give myself 24 hours to come out of it. How I come out of it is the key, right? And I'm going to share some of those techniques that I use, but I actually have a tantrum plan to actually activate to then be able to come out on the other side stronger. And now my tantrum plan actually is shorter. It used to be 24 hours. Now it really is kind of like 2-3 hours, maybe at the most. I'm just being real. All right, next slide, Monique. So this is what I use to be my own cheerleader, right? So I'm having that day, I'm having that moment. I fall back to my affirmations. These are the affirmations that I say on a regular basis. I started with I am worthy. And what I want for anyone seeing this, if you're not using and activating your day with affirmations, I challenge you to do one, just one, in the mirror, in the morning, before you get dressed, just one. Come up with something that would make you feel amazing to say to yourself, whether you believe it or not. And I challenge you to say that one thing in the mirror until you believe it. If it's So if you're someone who's already a positive affirmation person and you're already someone who does, I would add one more to your list. The one that I'm doing right now that I've added to my list for 2020 is I am amazing and I am attracting amazing people to my life. I am amazing and I am attracting amazing people to my life. I want to hear from you. I want you to add this to your day. If you're already doing affirmations, I would love to hear what's working for you so that we can share it with other people that need to hear this. I was 48 years old when I figured this out, and it was because I was shown. I never saw it, I knew about it, but I was shown, which is the key to what this whole conversation is about. All right, next slide, Monique. So I just a little bit on my journey, and I love this quote. I've shared it on my timeline, and I just want to read it because I think it's so important when we start talking about unlocking the barriers in our life, unlocking to that next opportunity for growth. And it's everything you blame, you're stuck with. Bless it, wish it well, wish it its own freedom, and it will be very powerful in the way that it will not come back to you. All negative energy that we've inherited is there because it's looking for resolution. I just live in a state of forgiveness and letting go. I built a whole platform around it called Release to Receive because I believe that as long as you hold on to things that no longer serve you, you are not making room for it to receive the things that do. And getting that understanding for me has been amazing in my life. And so I love this quote for all those reasons. I would love to hear how you feel about it as well. All right, Monique. So we're closing out here in a few minutes, but I wanted to add some homework. So add one morning affirmation to your morning. I already shared that. I would love to hear what that is. And then strengths. Identify one strength to focus on for the next 12 to 18 months. I take a test called Strength Finders, which is it's Clifton-based Strength Finders. And I know my top 5 that I use as part of my core development. And that when you have identified your strength, you actually work on your strengths, not your weaknesses. Your richest soil is your strength. You can get the fastest movement by working on something you're already strong at than you can by trying to turn around a big weakness. So I would love to have that conversation. And if you need more clarification or help with that topic, all my information will be attached. So I would love to have that conversation with you. And next slide, Monique. And so this is where the artistic in me comes out. So I love the power of words. And I love that we can do so much with positive words. I already talked about the affirmations. So I can't just write the words, right? I can't just write the words and say the words. I actually have to create the words. So I've been working on, I can get this in the camera, I'm working on these little acrylic babies that I have. So this is Joy, right? And I love creating these. And actually, I've been putting these on my mirror, my bathroom mirror, and I've been selling them for people as an inspiration to start their day. And because I was the lipstick writer, trying to find the mirror pin and all that would get erased. And then I had to clean the mirror. And so I just love attaching a powerful word to my mirror as a morning reminder. And I chose to add believe. And so this is a giveaway. So I would love to support someone in giving you a word for your day. So I am Artfully Healed is my Instagram. If you go on to today's post, which I'm wearing what I have on now with the word joy, and tag me with your word, I will pick a winner from today's entries to make this word for you. And so I can make it between 6 and 12 inches long. So I do kind of a bigger word too, in any color. So if this is something that would support you, and I would love to follow as well. And I will be looking for you to drop in what is your word, because I do believe that we are more powerful when we choose to plant seeds of inspiration. And for me, words are seeds of inspiration. Okay, next slide, Monique. So that is what I wanted to share today. I think that for me, Artfully Healed is I can be authentically me in my creativeness. I can be authentically me in how I choose to show up in the world. And this is part of my wellness journey, right? So, what I do collectively in sharing my story and making things that inspire other people and using my creativity is I'm a maker, right? I'm a maker, and I write and I share, and I'm a storyteller. That is my creative gift. So those outlets are part of my mental wellness. Your outlets are part of your mental wellness. And I think that operating in that and actually falling into your strengths and your gifts are part of the actual growth journey, and we want to celebrate that at Artfully Healed. We want to celebrate all the things that make you uniquely you. So I would love to see you as part of our community to share that story. How are you coming out of 2020? How are you using what you're gifted at, the communities that support you to come through this trying time? And that is what the community at Artfully Healed does, is we are collectively sharing that we are not okay, and what are we doing to make ourselves well, keep ourselves whole and sane, and having a conversation around it. When a lot of groups skating over it, we don't skate over it, right? Are you okay? If you're not okay, let's have a conversation, right? So that is Artfully Healed today. My name is Kimblin, and I am Artfully Healed, and I would love to share any insight if there are any questions that anyone would have. You can reach me at my website, which www.artfullyhealed.org. I already gave you the Instagram, which I'll give it to you again. I am Artfully Healed is my Instagram. My phone number is below if you want to text me, which is a quick way to reach me as well. So that's how you can find me. I look forward to hearing from you. Are there any questions? And Monique, did you have anything?
There we go. That was wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing with us. I am so honored to have been able to listen to that. And I do have a few questions for you. So the tantrum plan, right? I think that's a wonderful idea, and I'm definitely gonna adopt that. What made you think about like creating a tantrum plan?
So, as I shared, I went through about 10 years of depression. And it wasn't a depression where I was like under the covers, like didn't come out of my room for a month. I was a very functioning depressed person. I went to work. I was very successful at work. I had friends. I did things, but I literally had days of just regret of getting out of the bed or being in my room, looking at the door, thinking this is just all there is. And it was never going to get better, and never feeling like I had hope, and just feeling just all the things that you tell yourself that things are never going to change. And when I start having those slides or moments of where I feel like things are not going my way, or I get bad news, or I'm frustrated, and I start feeling that familiar feeling of lack of hope, I start really speaking to myself like, you don't have lack of hope. But it's not like, I don't want to take away that I'm having the thoughts, right? I don't want to take away that it's a bad day. So I came up with the plan of like, take in what's really happening and process it, but you don't get an unlimited time to do that. And so that's why I came up with the tantrum plan is to give me a boundary of, you do not get unlimited time to sit in this, because I have sat in it for years. And it's like, okay, what sounds like a good timeline, right? Okay, 24 hours, which for me typically means overnight. So if it happens in the evening and then I have an overnight sleep, we're done. We wake up, we're good, right? But 24 hours is my plan.
Nice. Okay. Because, yeah, I think that that is very smart. Because I notice when I really struggle with, like just staying consistent or anything like that, I'll notice that I'll kind of slide, just like you said, and having a plan to be like, okay, nope, this is what you can do. This is how much time you have to do it in. Get your ish together, and right, and tomorrow after that's done, right, hop back to it. So
Yeah.
I do really
It's
love
kind of like a pity plan, right? It's a pity. I want to have a pity party. And sometimes I won't even be allowed to have the pity party because then I'll think about how blessed I am. I'm like, crap, I didn't even get to have the pity party. Like, really?
So
I get
did you
mad.
did you write your plan out when you started it and now you just like know it by heart, or like how did you get to a place where you kind of like were able to shrink it down?
No, it just literally just started with just knowing that I was not going to sit in it for days. That was just like, it was an agreement I made with myself.
Nice.
Right. And the last big pity party that I tried to have, it just didn't go well because like someone sent me an email of gratitude of me just being so thankful that I was in their lives, and the way they wrote it up. Cause I was like, I had been preparing for hours to come home and have my pity party. Like I was like, as soon as we get home, we're allowed to have our pity party and fall out on the floor and cry and do all the things.
Yeah.
And I was like doing all my setup steps to get ready for my pity party. Like I had my space ready, I had my blanket, my candles, like we're gonna really do this thing. And I said, let me check my email first before I go have my pity party. I was getting tears already, like I was ready.
Yeah.
And I started reading her letter of gratitude, and I was like, crap, now I can't have this pity party.
You're like, it's too late, right? Like it's you done
Like,
ruined the mood with good
like
with all your positivity.
yeah, someone said having you in our lives has been amazing, and just watching you, how you from then to now, and watching everything you've done, and you're just an amazing person. And it was all the things, and I was like, the tears just like swoops, like they just disappeared, because it was like, what you gonna like? How are you gonna have a cry now? Like like you're a gift to somebody else. So what? How do you like? How dare you try to diminish all that you've done because you're just having a bad day? And so so it's helped me tremendously to not sit in my pity or my whatever for long periods of time. So
Nice. I love that. So another question I have is the words that you create. Where did that come from? How did you get into it?
so the words themselves, or how did I create these?
Well, yeah. So like, how did you get to the idea of that and then to start creating them?
So I started with vinyl. So I used to make ceramic tiles. And so I was using a technique to make these, and then these have the resin on top of them.
Right.
And so it was funny because I wanted this. I don't like the resin part. So the resin part is kind of messy. There's some resin artists out there. They make it look amazing, but it's a mess to deal with, right?
Yeah.
So I was doing it, and I was like, I don't like this part. I don't like this part. And so I was like, I want the word on here, but I knew I wanted it in a 3D, like I wanted it raised. And so I have the evolution of this, right? I have some clay that I was using, some concrete, all the things trying to get this raised feeling. And so I was introduced to this material. So my goal is, and I don't have it in front of me, is I've added these to the tiles. And so a lot of these are on my profile, but I add these to the tile instead of the letter, instead of the paper. So I've added these to the tile, but I had so many words I created. I was like, why did you create all these words? Like I was just creating like a creating fool, just creating the words. And I love the font.
When you finally get it, you're just like everything. Give me a dictionary.
Yeah, I was just creating words, and some of them on the tile, and then I made some bigger ones, and I have big ones. And I was like, why did I create all these words? Like, I have no idea. And then literally God planted in me. He's like, because these are going to be what people can use elsewhere. And it really wasn't until he really dropped into my spirit of putting it on the mirror. I didn't know why I created the words. I literally was just like a creating fool, just creating words. And I have all this inventory of joy and freedom and love and trust. And it was literally until 3 weeks ago that the idea came to put them on the mirror in the morning. And I was like, okay, well, that's why I created the word. So, but now it's grown into other things. People have asked me to create their business name in the words, and they're going to use them as part of their marketing campaigns and even vending shows. And so it's grown into something bigger than even I came up with. So,
right. And that's wonderful, right? Like you said, right? God put that into your spirit and then it just grows from there. Yeah, absolutely. So right, the last thing it's not a question, but just like I guess a commendation of when you said, right, like we can say I am not okay. I thought that was just so powerful because there's so many times, especially as Black women, where we feel like we have to have everything down. We got to like do it right. We got to have all these like different pieces to our lives. But to be able to just stop and say, you know what, I don't got it. Not today. I really don't. And I'm just gonna put that out there. And so thank you. Thank you for saying that. Thank you for being very open about your story and being so authentic with us. Really do appreciate your time here today.
No, thank you. It's an honor and a pleasure to be able to share. And like I said, for that one person that maybe where I was, and that everything on the outside looks amazing, right, to everyone else, but you secretly are trying to figure it out. I just want to give someone hope to not give up.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. Well, folks, Kimberlyn is going to be back with us later on today at the end of our summit. So we are going to be having a wellness panel after a few speakers left. So thank you so much. We will be seeing you soon.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Wonderful, right? That was amazing and so blessed to have Kimberlyn come and talk to us. And we're going to be having an equally wonderful speaker coming up next. And her name is Marquita. She is a wonderful talent and a creative. And I'm just going to pop her in now. Oop. There we go. Hello, lady. Oh, wait. Let's try it one more time. It said you have to unmute yourself.
Oh,
there you go.
Hi, can you hear me now?
I can. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you so much for agreeing to be here today. It is so nice to have you.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, of course. So I do want to give a quick little introduction, right? So Marquita is a wonderful and talented person, and she helps talented creative entrepreneurs like some of you who are listening, right, live a mentally well life. She believes that the key to your mental wellness is harnessing your creativity to build a purpose-driven and profitable business. Mental wellness can help creative entrepreneurs reach their full potential. And some of the things that she offers are local design, brand identity development, and website builds, life coaching. So she is just a multi-talented individual. And I'm super excited to hear what you have to offer today.
Thank you. I appreciate the introduction. So thank you again. Good morning, good afternoon to everyone. I'm so excited for this summit. I was super excited when you reached out and said that you were putting this together. So kudos to you. This is awesome. So everything that Monique shared is absolutely correct. I started my business because I am a creative myself. And I just know that throughout my journey, I've kind of dabbled in multiple things, whether it's painting, making jewelry. I make a lot of stuff around my house. I also knew that sometimes there's this expectation that when you're creating these things that you should sell them or try to make a profit off of them, something like that. So you can get kind of in that cycle of what am I doing? Like, am I doing this for fun or am I doing this to make money? So that's why today I wanted to talk about setting boundaries because I had to set some boundaries with myself as well as with the people around me. So today I'll be sharing my 5 tips for setting boundaries. So Monique has my one little slide and we'll get started talking about that. So let me see while she's pulling that up. So in the chat, can you guys share what's a boundary? How do you define boundaries? Okay. Money, that's the biggest that I can go. Oh, being able to say no. Yes, no is my favorite word. I used to be afraid to tell people no. So that's a really good one. And I'm going to talk about that as well. So before I go into my tips for setting boundaries, I did just want to give overall personal protection. That is also very good because we got to preserve ourselves. Boundaries are essentially the way that we take care of ourselves. So boundaries. So all of these are correct answers. Everyone defines boundaries their own way. Saying no without explanation, right? No is a complete sentence. No, period. That's it. So boundaries are our own personal limits, our own ground rules, our own guidelines. So however we govern, the way that we interact with other people, those are our personal boundaries. And there's different types of boundaries. So there's physical boundaries. That's just like, we look at the map of the United States. There's physical boundaries that separate Florida from Georgia, California from Mexico. Those are physical boundaries. There's also person-to-person physical boundaries. We teach kids very young, don't let anybody touch you in your private parts. That's a physical boundary. The next boundary is emotional boundaries. So what you allow into your mental space. And this is very important with what's going on, just in the world today, from politics to coronavirus to what's on the news, what's on the TV. You got to set some emotional and mental boundaries with yourself and with others. And then the other one that I work on daily is time and energy boundaries. I know I'm not the only person that just says yes sometimes to everything. Like, oh, you need me to help you with this? Okay, yeah, I'll help you with that. Oh, you want me to come to your event? Yep, I'll come to that. And then by the end of the week, the end of the day, you're like, I'm tired. Now I have no time for myself. So those are just some of the boundaries that I wanted to share because there's different levels and different kinds of boundaries. So my first tip for setting boundaries is to be clear about what you want, right? So when we talk about boundaries, all of these are personal. These are a reflection of who you are, right? So when you're setting boundaries, whether it's a physical boundary, a mental boundary, a time boundary, you have to know what you want. So if you know that you cannot commit to being at, well, this was pre-COVID, like if you know you can't commit to going to 5 weddings in 1 month, then you got to know that, right? Because it's a season. People are getting married, engaged, and you're like, ooh, this is a lot of time I got to put out, right? So you have to know what your limit is. So be clear about what you want. If you don't want to spend your Sundays after church going to the grocery store, then don't do it. If you don't want to spend time, I don't know, helping your friend move, then say no, right? Somebody said that no is a complete sentence. So the next one is to be direct, but to also be gentle. And the one thing that helps with being direct and being gentle is being clear about what you want. So if you know what you want, then you're not going to be like, I don't know, well, maybe I'll go to this event or maybe I'll help you. But if you already know what you want, then you could say, hey, friend, I know you asked me to help you with X, Y, and Z, but I just don't have the energy to do that, right? So it's very direct. You're saying, hey, I know you asked me to do X, Y, and Z, but no, my energy is not there. I had to cancel a meeting last night. I said, hey, I know we're supposed to meet tonight, but I am tired. I need to go to bed, right? So I just said, hey, I'm not going to be able to do it. Can we reschedule? All right. So the next one is to get comfortable with others being uncomfortable. How many people like the word no? I'll wait. If somebody tells you no and you ask them, like, ooh, can I do, or can you loan me $500? And they be like, nah, but you really need it to pay your rent or something, and they tell you no, are you excited about that? So we have to get comfortable with others being uncomfortable with your boundaries, right? Because we said earlier that when you're setting boundaries, these are your personal beliefs, your personal boundaries, your personal ground rules. So that means not everyone else is going to be okay with your rules because they're your rules, right? So sometimes it could be real uncomfortable to tell your mom, like, no, mom, I ain't got it. I know I lent you $100 the other day, but this week I ain't got it. Or no, friend, I'm not going to be able to do that today. And people can get in their feelings, but you did it the other day. Why you can't do it now? So we got to get comfortable with others being uncomfortable. And then when we're also setting boundaries, you have to be consistent, right? So if someone's always asking you for money or asking you if you can drop everything and do what they need you to do, and you're flip-flopping, like one week you're like, yeah, I'll do it, or the next week you're like, nope, it's going to confuse them. That's funny, Monique. Boundaries also help me mind my own business. That is very true. So you have to be consistent, right? So you can't flip-flop back and forth. It's just like teaching a child a new skill, right? So if you're disciplining a child, but you're inconsistent with it, they're going to be confused. Like, can I do this or not? Like, am I going to get in trouble or not? And this can even happen in the workplace, right? So sometimes, we want to get that promotion. We want to get that next job. We want to be recognized, be the A1 team player. So we take on all these things at work, like, hey, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. But then when you really don't have the energy for it that 1 week and you say no, it's going to be some uncomfortable people, right? So you want to be consistent. So before you start agreeing to all these things, ask yourself if you are going to be able to sustain these things long term. And then the last one is don't feel guilty about doing what's best for you, right? So we first talked about boundaries are your rules. That's what you govern yourself by. This is the way you live your life. So don't ever feel guilty about doing what's best for you. Don't feel guilty about turning down an invitation. Don't feel guilty about, canceling a meeting if you don't have the energy to do it. Don't feel guilty about not taking on that extra project at work. Don't feel guilty about, not engaging even in conversation. That's a boundary too. If someone wants to argue with you or, they just want to bring you into their, like Monique said, minding your own business. If you're not into gossiping, then don't gossip. That's a boundary. So just remember these things. These are my tips for setting boundaries. And it's a daily practice. You have to remember what your boundaries are. So always go back to the first point, which is to be clear about what you want. So if you want to have time for yourself at the end of the week, then that means you got to set a boundary to not take on all these other things in the beginning of the week. And then by the weekend, you're like, well, I'm just be in bed all day because I gave my time, my energy to everyone else. So I think that's it. Any questions, Monique? I hope that was helpful. Looking at the comments.
Yes, thank you so much. Boundaries are So incredibly important. Like they're honestly one of my favorite things to talk about because I think that they are such a struggle for some people when it comes to just really learning how to say no,
Mhm.
right? What was your relationship like with no? How did you get good at boundaries?
It's practice, right? So one of the points that I made is being consistent, right? And you also, in order to be consistent with your boundaries, you have to know, what your limits are. So it's a daily thing. Like I have to know, I have to look at myself, and look at what's going on in my life and my mental capacity and what I'm able to take on, um, to know like this is a hard boundary for me. Like on Sundays, I'm not going nowhere. I got virtual church from this time to this time. And then when church is over, I'm cooking dinner. And then that's it. I'm not going nowhere. I'm setting my boundaries. Like my grandma know, my mama know, like I'm not, don't call me between these hours and these hours, right?
Yeah.
So you have to be consistent.
Mm-hmm.
Continue to practice those boundaries.
Yeah, absolutely. So we do have a question from Shantae. She said, when it comes to setting boundaries for family, I'm assuming that she just means like, how do we do that? And like, what does that look like for you?
Setting boundaries with your family, and this could be difficult, right? Because it's our family, it's our mom, dad, siblings, whoever it may be. And there's this expectation, especially in the Black community, like if your mama asks you to do it, you better do it. If your daddy says it, that means you're gonna do it, right?
Mm-hmm. Very much.
And especially when it's a parent-child relationship, there's still, even though you're an adult, there's still that expectation, like your mama said you need to go do X, Y, and Z, but you like, I'm a whole grown person. Like, I'm grown.
This.
Right. So with family, it's definitely, again, it goes back to being consistent, but also being confident in the person that you are as an adult, right? So sometimes our family will still treat us, like your child, like you're my child. I had you. You won't do what I say do until whenever, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have to still say, I know that you would like for me to do X, Y, and Z, but I'm not going to be able to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right? So it's the same thing, being consistent, and you still got to know what you want and what you don't want. So it's being very confident in your choice and your decision and what you're saying. I know you said that you would like for me to do X, Y, Z, but I'm not going to be able to do that.
Yeah. And I know one of the things that I always recommend when telling people or when like setting boundaries with their family is like letting their family know in advance, right, before the boundary even comes up, rather than waiting until, right, you have to have a conversation. So that way you can kind of just be like, hey, so listen, I've been doing some work on me and I realize that these are some things, some changes that I want to say, like set in my life. And this is the thing. Your parents will always agree with you on setting boundaries with other people.
True.
You should do that. You tell her not to cross your boundaries, right? And then so that way, like they've had that conversation, right? They've bought into it. They agreed with you.
Mm-hmm.
So then when it comes up and it's like time for their no, right? And then you're like, hey, remember, like we had this conversation. I was telling you I want to make these changes and I was going to start like setting some boundaries. I was like, I love you, but these are still the boundaries. Right. Here was an alternative way that we could potentially do that. I was like, but right, this is what's going to happen. And so sometimes that has been easy. I always like joke around with my mom. Like I trained my mom for boundaries before I went to college because she know. Like now we have like a couple of phrases. Because if I do this, she's like, okay, all right, cool. Let me just and then she just right and but it's because like I was like, mommy, I was like, you gotta let me go. You gotta let me go. Make my own mistakes. You gotta do and like we had a bunch of conversations about it, right? Before it actually had to happen. So I think like prepping your family for this, telling them stuff, like getting their buy-in into your boundaries is a really nice way to like step them up to the point where they become like, well, you know what? She her own woman. She told me she was going to be doing this. And then it almost becomes like a pride thing, right? Like she told me she was going to do it and now she's doing it. So that's just a couple of tips. Any other questions? That was a great question, Shantae. Thank you so much. No? All right, well, perfect. Well, thank you so much. It was so nice to have you on. We will also be seeing Marquita back in just a little bit, about 20 minutes after I talk to you guys about making impact decisions. So thank you.
Thank you.
Tell everybody where they can find you and all that.
Oh, right. Yeah. So I am on Instagram primarily at Mental Wellness Advocate. And then my website is thementalwellnessadvocate.com.
I will post those into the chat also. All right, perfect. Thank you so much.
All right, thanks.
Okay, that was wonderful, wasn't it? I am so happy we had somebody come on and talk about boundaries. I love talking about boundaries. They're one of my favorite things to chat about. So very excited for that topic. Now we're going to switch into talking about impact decisions and how we can lower our indecisiveness. I don't know about you guys, but I am definitely one of those people who can be indecisive. I want to do this thing and that thing and this thing. And yet somehow I end up getting absolutely nothing done. And so we're going to be talking about that. Bear with me while I try to pull up the slides because this is my first time using StreamYard. So here we go. I think I should be able to do both. That's so weird seeing me in the screen, but hold on. I thought I had this up. Sorry, you guys. Time out. Perfect. There it is. Okay, so let me know if you can't see this. Somebody just go ahead and tell me because this is the primary thing that's on my screen. So wonderful. I am really excited to talk to you guys about this because this is really important to me just because I always joke around like I'm a Pisces. I just float everywhere and that's just like the nature of my life. But it's really important that I, right, and everybody else starts to learn how do you make good choices, right? How do you make good choices for yourself? How do you make good choices for your business? And so we're going to be getting into impact decisions, right? So sometimes choices are not easy, right? Sometimes they are, right? And when we're plagued by indecision, it leads us to having longer bouts of like improductivity, right? Where we really want to be productive. Have you ever woke up that day and was like, okay, I'm going to get this done. I'm going to get this done. I'm going to get this done. But then you spend half your time bouncing back and forth between all the things that you want to get done. And then you realize that you got nothing done, right? That's where we're at. And so I'm going to teach you a method to evaluate your priorities so you can make informed decisions about where you should be focusing your time and attention, right? And so this should help you lower indecision, make faster choices, and stop wasting so much time on worry and guilt. Right, so here's an example, right? You decide to clean your house, but then you remember you have some work due later, right? Continue cleaning your house. Do not try to like go back and forth between a few things because it's not going to help you, right? When we multitask, even though we all think that we're good at it, right? We are not, because it takes us about 20 minutes to go from one task, fix our brain to get back to the other one. and then actually get deep into the flow of that new task, right? So we really want to learn how to stop multitasking and really start learning how to focus. So here is the document that I normally use. If you would like this, I am going to be posting this after this session today. And it is honestly, you don't need this exactly. I tend to use something probably about like this size, and I just do a nice little cross on it and make sure that I label them correctly. So this is one of my favorite quotes in the world. I love quotes. Enthusiasm is common, endurance is rare, right? And that's why we really want to focus on focus, right? Because endurance is rare. Being able to stay focused on one topic for a sustained amount of time is a rare quality, and we need to take time to really practice that quality. So priority, right? These are the things that are important to you. What are the tasks that you absolutely need to work on? So some of the examples are like what tasks have a due date, right? And all tasks in the priority column should have some type of high impact in your life. So here is an example of a to-do list. You can tell if you read this to-do list, it is a little bit dated because it says save music CD to have in the car. I don't know about you guys, but I have not done that since like the 90s or the early 2000s. So we're just going to scratch that one off our priority list because obviously we're not going to do that. Spotify has changed all that for us, right? But some of the priorities that are actually on this list, right? Developing a new feature for your web application. Maybe you have a new page that you need to put on your website. Maybe you actually need to start an Instagram page for your website, right? That is a high value task, right? It's going to have a lot of impact to your business and to your life, right? So that's something that you should do. Buy a helmet for cycling. Let's imagine that you are on a motorcycle. You need it, right? You're going to need your helmet for cycling or for a motorcycle or whatever it is, right? So we should definitely keep that on. That's going to have an impact on your life. Analyzing survey results, right? Learning how to use Sketch, right? These are things that are important and that are going to actually give you a return on your time, right? However, one thing to know, right? It's really important that we normalize breaking up tasks into smaller time frames. So learning how to use Sketch, you are not going to be able to do that in a day. You are not going to be able to do that in an hour. And so just time limit some of these tasks, right? So that way they don't feel so overwhelming. Often that is what really leads us to multitask and hop around. We'll start learning how to use Sketch. We'll get to a place where we're confused and we'll decide, I'll hold on, I'll put that away. I'll start learning something new. Well, that's not always going to be the best for us because how can you actually get through it if, right, you don't keep going? So set a time limit, right? I'm going to learn for 30 minutes to 45 minutes, and then I'm going to take a break and do something else, right? I'll come back and do another 45 minutes tomorrow. And then by the end of that week, you should be able to have learned most of how to use Sketch. So paying attention to the things that have a due date and are tasks that give you a return on your efforts. Distractors. So this is one of my favorite memes, right? There are no limits to what you can accomplish when you're supposed to be doing something else. I don't know about you guys, but I've gotten a lot of things done when I was supposed to be doing something else. And obviously that is not where my time should have been spent, nor is it like a good amount of time spent. So, right, these are the tasks that can easily pull you off track in the name of it has to be done eventually, right? If you've ever heard of productive procrastination, this is it, right? And it's really important that you list these things before you start to work so that way you can catch yourself if you do fall into these habits, right? So I'm a productive procrastination master. I always sit at my desk working, doing things, and I'll look up and I'm like, well, this office needs to be cleaned. I can't work in a junky office. That doesn't work for me. And then I'll get up and I'll do that. And then I'm like, well, I'm hungry now, right? Food is my number one distractor, right? And so that means I need to eat before I start working, right? And so that way it is not something that will stop me, because then I'll be like, well, let me just pull out this cast iron. I'm gonna make some homemade French fries. Where's this potato cutter? Okay, great. Right. And then 2 hours go by, right? And I'm like, oh, well, I'm full now. I can't get back to work. Right. Write down your distractors. It's really important that you are aware of them. And it's really important that you make a plan, right, to not engage in them until after your work is done. You want to make sure those priority tasks get complete first, right? And then the distractors, right? Your house can always be cleaned. Food will always be in the fridge. You can always find a way to justify it. But what we're really trying to do is get away from justifying those productive procrastination tasks, right? And lowering that multitasking, so that way you will be able to really focus. Mindfulness. So this is, right, the opposite of the productive procrastination. This is what helps you actually stay on track, right? You need to know what are the things that are good for you, right? So for me, here are some of the things that really do help me. One of them being music. If you have not used Spotify, I would highly suggest it. I am obsessed with Spotify. I always have been. And they have an entire catalog of playlists dedicated to focus, right? So here are some of the examples, right? They have a deep focus, one that plays peaceful piano, lo-fi beats, instrumental study, jazz in the background, brain food, right? These are all music that is going to help you just calm down, right? Slow your mind down and just be able to help your mind like kind of process in the background while you're trying to focus. Some other things, Forest app, this you can download on your iPhone and your Android, hashtag Team Android. But right, it will turn off your apps. Right? When you go into it, I can probably show you through my phone. Hopefully you can see this. Okay, so how Forest works, you get to, hopefully that's focused, create a tree. Oops, there we go. And as you start it, you get to set how long you want it to be. If you want it to be 20 minutes all the way up to 2 hours, and you grow your tree. Once you press start, it locks off access to all of your other apps. If you stay on or open up another app for more than 5 seconds, your tree dies. And let me tell you, it will tell you your tree is about to die. Go back to Forest. And so it helps you stay away from Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and some of the other apps that are sometimes distracting for us, right? Because I don't know if you've ever scrolled through TikTok, but you can be on TikTok for an hour easily with like no thought, just scrolling through, giggling and laughing. And then you look up and it's been an hour. Right. So Forest is really great if you notice that you sometimes have a phone addiction, right? You hear it vibrate and you immediately go to grab it. Forest is a wonderful app to help you keep that mindfulness and paying attention to, right, putting it away, putting it down, so that way you can focus. Another one is a wonderful extension for your laptop. It's web-based. It's called Stay Focused. It is very similar to Forest. You get to set how much time you spend on particular apps or particular websites each day. So some of the things that are on my banned list, the news, like Washington Post, Yahoo, Facebook, Twitter, things like that, because I love to read the news. I can get caught up in a news article easily for like 20, 30 minutes. And so I knew that I had to be able to like turn that off. So it gives me 90 minutes a day. You can also set a nuclear option where it blocks those websites completely for however much time you set. And if you do try to go back to them, a little guy will pop up and he'll say, shouldn't you be working? And then he shames you back into work. So these are some of the really great mindfulness tools. If you exercise, that's wonderful. Meditation is another really good idea for mindfulness. One thing that I use for my mindfulness is a color by numbers app called Happy Color, right? So I use that as my de-stress. I'll work for about 30 minutes and then do a color by numbers and then hop back into my work. So that way it helps me feel like I get to play a little bit in between and still do something productive. And so the last category is overwhelm, right? What worries are keeping you from focusing? And what has your attention right now? Being honest, there are so many concerns that we are all facing right now, particularly with coronavirus still ravaging our country, right? Sometimes it's debt, sometimes it's family trouble. Maybe your rent is due and you just don't think that you're going to have the money in time, right? Maybe you are really stressing out about a job and you're trying to look for a new one, and job searching is always hard. Right. So it's really important that you understand what are the things that are overwhelming you, because this is going to keep your attention away from those priority tasks that are really going to help you. Right. Overwhelm is something that we need to pay attention to, right? And discover, how can I turn my overwhelm into a priority task? Right. Let's say it is a job search. Right. So I'm overwhelmed with my job search. So what is a way that I can use that overwhelm and turn it into something to propel me forward? Right. Okay. So if I'm worried about my job search, maybe I just need to apply to 2 jobs today. Applying jobs sometimes takes a really long time, especially when they tell you to upload your resume, but then they tell you to type in your entire resume. It's the worst, right? But just 2, just 2 that day, and pop that into the priority tasks. We want to use our overwhelm column as an idea, right? And a spark point for what our priorities should be. If we let things stay in overwhelm for too long, right, they will completely block out the rest of these 3 columns or 3 areas. And it's really important that we don't let our overwhelm actually overwhelm our life. So we want to acknowledge them, right? We want to give them honor and credit. And then we also want to use them so that way we can live a better life. So if I'm overwhelmed with bills, I need to set a budget, right? If I'm overwhelmed with the big plans that I've set for myself, that seems like maybe I need a coach, right? If I'm overwhelmed with my home improvement, maybe I need to throw some money at this problem, right? And I just need to hire somebody else to do it. If that's the case, do what's best for you. Find out how to turn your overwhelm into a priority so that way you can get these things done and you can really make sure that you are getting some high value out of this. So here's an example, right? Priority tasks: set goals for the week, post an article, email newsletter, or confirm with guests. Right? I'm planning a wedding right now, so confirming with guests is a personal struggle. Right? Some of the distractors is for sure, right? Planning my wedding. So I'm like looking on Etsy and Pinterest for all these cute ideas where I really don't need to be doing that, right? I should be working. And so I understand that if I ever go to Etsy in the middle of my work, this is a distractor. And so I have to also put Etsy on my banned list, right? So maybe it's clean your office, it's news, it's hunger, right? And mindfulness, right? A quiet environment. If you know that sounds and other people can really distract you, right? And you need to make sure that you are putting in, right, a quiet environment into your mindfulness column, right? Maybe you want to set your Force app for 30 minutes. Maybe you set your stay focused for even longer, right? So maybe you know you're going to work for a whole 2-hour period, right? Set your Force so that way 30 minutes in, you could maybe play on your phone, check Facebook, check Twitter, and then get back to work. The Pomodoro technique is exactly that, right? You work for 25 minutes, you get a break for 5 minutes, work for 25 minutes, get a break for 5 minutes. And then the overwhelm, right? So the rent's due, coronavirus, maybe you had an argument with your spouse, and then a work project deadline. So some of these things, right, we can for sure put into our priority column, right? So a work project deadline. When is that deadline? And is it sooner than any of the things on your priority list, right? If so, right, let's start working on that first. An argument with your husband, right? That's something that we can schedule a time for when we know we'll be able to do that. Maybe he gets home after 6. Okay, well, we'll have this conversation after dinner. So that way I know that we will be addressing that, right? Coronavirus, unfortunately, that's an overwhelm that is really going to have to stay in that column. Sometimes, right, our overwhelm can't be turned into a priority task. Sometimes it's just something that we have to learn how to deal with. So that may be, right, meditating. That could be like talking to a therapist. That could be talking to other people about how they are experiencing coronavirus and what they're doing to keep themselves calm. One of the best things for us is empathy, right? And being able to understand what's happening. And then our rent due, well, rent's just always due, but maybe we need to set a budget to make sure that we feel safe to know that the money's going to be in the account. So you want to accomplish your priority tasks first. I cannot stress this enough. Yes, there are other things that you could be doing, right? However, right, we know that the priorities are the things that you need to be doing, right? Discipline comes first. It's always fun when there's tasks that motivate us, right? Motivation, however, is temporary and it is fleeting, right? Something just like exercise. We're like, yes, I'm going to start this. I'm going to do it, right? And then 2 days in, you're like, okay, well, this sucks and I don't want to do it anymore, right? If we do that with our priority tasks, right, we would never get them accomplished. So it's more important to focus on cultivating the discipline to stay in our priorities than it is to just go with the flow to what makes us feel good. Right. This is one of my favorite phrases. It is now the tagline of Becoming Enriched. Growth feels better. It feels better when we're getting our goals done. It feels better when we're like checking off things off our to-do list. It feels better knowing that we got a budget and that everything's going to be paid for. And so we really have to make a plan for ourselves so that way we can grow and we can feel better. All right, so thank you all so much for listening. I am Monique with Becoming Enriched. You can find me on all platforms, Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, LinkedIn at Becoming Enriched. And you can also check me out on my website, www.becomingenriched.com. I also have a radio show that comes on Mondays at 8 p.m. on WDRB Media through iHeartRadio. So definitely check that out. I give a lot of tips. It's 30 minutes every single Monday. I think this Monday I talked about travel and how to travel safely in coronavirus, particularly domestic travel. So thank you all so much for listening. Let me pop this out. Okay, so any questions? Nope. Okay, wonderful. Well, we are going to bring our wonderful speakers back and talk to them and really just discuss where the state of mental wellness is, how we can improve things, and where our responsibilities are to our own mental wellness and to the mental wellness of our community. So let me bring our beautiful ladies back. Can I make it? Here we go. Let's see. Okay, perfect. Let me get in the middle of mine. There we go. Hi, ladies.
Hi there.
So I am so happy to have had you all here today and definitely like sharing so much great information. I really do appreciate it. So first question, right, is why do you think mental wellness is really important for the Black community in particular? Anybody
can jump in? Okay. Well, I think that there's just like a stigma around mental health wellness just in general. So, and I don't think that I think it's because, first of all, we are meant to be strong. And I can give an example of that. I had one of my, days where I was having, the thoughts and all the thoughts of things that aren't going well. And I was just like, I want to be able to just cry. I want to be able to like have someone to lean on. I want to be able to let everything just go and just be, able to just release into someone else and let them take over. Yeah. And I was mad that that's not my circumstance. That's not my general circumstance. And then it's as I was writing and reflecting and pushing those thoughts out, I realized that this is just how I was made. I was meant to be strong and to be that. But I think it's important, because we don't have a lot of people that are in our lives that are saying it, that actually happens. Like even just sharing that it's okay to not feel like you have it all together is amazing. Just to hear that and hear someone that can pay their bills and someone. And so it's not like, when you see me, you're thinking, oh, she has it all together. She has that. But I'm like, being able to say I have bad days and being able to say that some days I don't feel like, going out and doing the thing. I don't feel like being strong.
Mhm.
Just helps someone else to be able to know. And I think that it's better, right? And every opportunity that we get to share our authentic selves in that way is an opportunity to make it better. But I think growing up, I didn't have a lot of influences that showed me that.
Mhm.
So
Absolutely. Marquita, did you feel like you had a similar experience?
Yeah, I think for me, which is why I've branded myself as the mental wellness advocate, it's just going on a journey, starting in my late 20s into early 30s, and now it's just discovering even what is mental wellness, right?
Mhm.
Historically, in the African American community, we don't talk about this stuff. Like, we may say, "Oh, your uncle over there, he crazy," or it's
Mhm.
they not right in the head or something like that. And I think the thing for me was when I decided that I wanted to be in the helping field. So being a social worker and working in mental health. And I'm like, well, why can't I go to therapy? I'm having feelings that I'm coaching, families about or talking to kids about. But it's like, well, I can go to therapy too, even though it's not historically something that in my family that was discussed, and honestly still kind of taboo. Like, I go to therapy. I tell everyone all the time, go to therapy. Like, when
Mhm.
I really started going to therapy, and I was like having a party. I was like, yes, thank you. Just encouraging her, because it's not a space historically that we have been allowed in, even
Yeah.
professionals, right?
Mhm.
There's not historically a lot of African Americans that are in the field that are, widely known and recognized for research and different things that they've done. So just dealing with my own mental illness and having been diagnosed with anxiety and depression, and going to therapy and saying, oh, well, this can actually help me, be a better person and a better human being and have better relationships
Right.
with the community at large. So
Mhm.
especially in this time now that a lot of people are seeing the benefit and the need for therapy. So I think it's awesome.
Yeah, for sure. And I would agree with you. Like, so I am a therapist, and my family is still like, nah, nope. Like, I remember I did my master's thesis on the reluctance of African Americans to engage in therapy because, um, so I went to school in Nebraska, right? So extra white. And there was, a very small Black population, and they were like, well, why don't Black people come to therapy? And I was like, well, historically, there's just been so many negatives that come in with A, going to therapy, B, just the medical practice, like in general. And so I really wanted to study that and what that looked like. And so, like, I'm kind of testing my questions out, and I asked my brother, and I was like, like, would you go to therapy? Like, you know more about it than most people because I'm a therapist. And he was like, no. What do you mean? Like, I'm a therapist. Like, this is what I do for a living. And he was like, yeah, no, still no. And I was like, why not? And he was like, I just don't feel like talking to somebody about my problems helps. And I was like, so like, I don't help people at all. He's like, no, 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 that's not what I'm saying. I was like, and then I realized, right, there's this dichotomy between, right, what they know therapy to do, because I feel like people know that therapy does in fact help people, right, and what they think will be effective for them as a person, right? Because he was like, I think that it works, I will not do it, right? And then it was like digging deeper into like really why, right? Where is that reluctance coming from? And I think it was, right, very much the stigma, right? What will people think of me if they know that I'm in therapy? What will people say about me? What will they say to me, right, if they know that I need help? And I think that like just that one phrase, right, I need help, is so difficult. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Um, So how can we get more comfortable with that phrase of I need help?
No, I'm just kidding. But I think that it definitely goes back to knowing yourself, right? So we know, like, sometimes we have pet peeves. Like, I can't even pre-COVID, like somebody just sneeze out in the open air. I'm just like, what you doing? Right?
Yeah.
We have to know ourselves. So we have to take that time to get to know who we are, what makes us tick, what triggers us, um,
Mhm.
what we need to thrive as a human being, what we need to feel rested, right?
Yeah.
So I think that once we get that into play, then you'll be able to assess, like, okay, I'm feeling really like not my usual self, something is not, balanced. I'm feeling a little on shaky ground. Like, what do I need? Right. And then also having, that support system in place, whether it's family, friends, or what have you. And then
Mhm.
also that you have access to therapy to say, hey, this is normal. There's other people that go through this, right? There's other people in the world that are depressed. There's other people in the world who have anxiety. There's
Mhm.
other people in the world who struggle with family relationships, financial difficulties. I think normalizing it has a lot to do with our ability and our willingness to say, hey, can somebody help me? Right? So when somebody's at the beach and they're drowning, the first thing they say is help, 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 help. Like, they're
Right.
for somebody to come and help them. So it's the same thing. I think just the same way that we normalize, somebody's at the beach drowning, they have lifeguards. A therapist is a lifeguard for your life.
Yes, I like that. Absolutely. Yeah. Kimmy, did you want to respond to that also?
No, what came to mind on that is for me, I when I wrote about, my journey, I shared that although people tried to help me when I was kind of, 'cause I feel like sometimes when you're going through, you don't want to taint other people's joy. So
Mhm.
you try to just kind of keep, to yourself. And you don't have the ability to say that you're not okay, but you're kind of doing the thing. And I really, really like the aspect of no matter how many times I was not saying it, other people around me were still willing to shine their light in my direction. And
Mhm.
so I just think that although we're looking, the question, is like, how do I say that I'm not okay? I just charge the people that are okay and know they are a light to continue keep shining their light,
Mhm.
because people in the darkness need to see it. And so the balance to that, I may not have the strength to say I'm okay, but I love seeing your light, and your light eventually will reach me. And for people in the darkness to look for the light, and the people that are the light is to keep shining their light, which
Mhm.
is kind of how the stance that I've taken on social media through this time is that I can't get into the whole muck of sadness and anxiety and worrying about what everyone is saying. And I just
Mhm.
can't dwell in that space, but I can continue shining my light, right?
Mhm.
I can continue shining my light. And I just charge people that know their light and know their joy just to keep doing that more. And we need it more now than ever. And so
Mhm.
that's just my response to that.
Yeah. So that rolls us right into our wonderful next question, which is how do we stay mentally well during coronavirus?
So I had a jarring experience early on. My company was really great about bringing us home before there was a lockdown. Like we started our own lockdown 3 weeks prior. So I've been home
Mhm.
since early March. And so it's in my mind. And I don't watch the news generally. I can't dwell in that space. I haven't been done it for 4 years. Like I just can't. And
Mhm.
so, but during that time, there was just so much news coming out. I felt compelled to kind of check in more often than I do. Normally, I just check in like morning and then evening just to get just a lay of the land, but not a every 15-minute, alert type of situation. And
Mhm.
so I was thinking, okay, this is so uncertain, but we know that something's going to happen at the end of March. Just get through the end of March. You'll be, April 1st will bring a new, it'll be kind of past and we can move on to the next thing. But it's just 3 weeks, right? It's like 3 weeks, you'll be fine. And March 31st, it was like, oh, no, we're here for a whole nother month. So April.
Mm-hmm.
I think I had talked myself and convinced myself that things were going to be changed in March and that April was going to bring. And when that realization didn't come, because now I'm checking in like 4 or 5 times a day. I'm like every hour checking in. I have worked myself into a frenzy. And I think that what we're sharing is that if that's not your normal, if you know you're not feeling like you normally feel, you have to take a pause. This is not normally how I feel. What did I change? And I can pinpoint it to changing my inputs. And so I think that is the key to your mental being okay, is like, what are your inputs? Do you have a direct insight to talking with certain people makes you feel a certain way? When you leave that conversation, do you feel a certain way and head to the refrigerator and eat all the ice cream? Right.
Yeah.
Do you? Like when you start thinking, okay, this is I'm tracking to bad behavior and this is what I did differently. That was a journey that I took. So I know when I'm not feeling well, but it was directly related. In that time, it was like when I really had to break off of like, oh, you really are not feeling well. You really have an extreme amount of anxiety and chest pains. Like what has happened? And that can attribute it to my check-in. So I love when you shared on the boundaries, because for me, my inputs are boundaries and I have to set, this is what we're allowed to do. We can check it in the morning, make sure, check it in the evening, but that is it, right? That's it. And I think for me, knowing yourself and knowing how you should feel and knowing when that's not lining up appropriately, to take inventory and stock of all the things that you are bringing into your presence, your space, your energy, and all of that matters. And so
yeah, absolutely. That's so true, right? Just knowing what you can handle and being able to honor your limits. Absolutely. Yeah. Marquita, any thoughts from you?
Yeah, I agree, with the input in terms of like what you're consuming. There's so much information that's going around, there's recommendations. And the government, and then you have to pay attention to local government and what's going on around you. But I think for me, the thing that has been keeping me kind of centered is just keeping those same routines that I had, before we were quarantined, adjusting some of them. Now, being at home since March, I've now been able to actually have a morning routine that doesn't involve me rushing out the door to get to work on time.
Yeah.
Even though sometimes I'm still like rolling out the bed right before I gotta clock in, but still being able to implement some newer things as far as like that self-care. So I'm able to in the morning devote time to Bible study, and then if I want to have a cup of coffee before I start work, I have time to do that. So just taking inventory of what you need to be the most productive in the current environment, I think the most helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. So kind of to what Kimmy said, when this all started, I had just like downloaded this game called The Plague. I think maybe like 2 weeks. I mean, like really like 2 weeks before it started. And so this is very dark, but just roll with it. So it's a game that like literally the point is to create a plague so successful that you can wipe out humanity. Right. And so like, I know, right? Crazy. And so like, right. It's a weird game, but again, follow me here. So when you play it, right, it shows you a timeline and it gives you news alerts of what's happening as you are creating this plague. And so like when this started, right, it was very fresh in my mind. And I had like played it for maybe a few times. I had won, and then I was like, all right, well, this is kind of weird, whatever. Like, you just put it out of your mind. And then the news started popping up about this stuff. And then stuff started rolling exactly like the game did. And I turned to my fiance and I was like, babe, I was like, I think that we're going to be in this. He was like, what are you talking about? I was like, this is like a long haul thing. I was like, I just played this game. I was like, and this is 2 years, right? That we're going to be in this. And he was like, what? I was like, no, really, like, because they even show you on the game, right, how they're working on like a vaccine and like how long it takes. I was like, it's gonna take like a year to a year and a half to develop the vaccine, and then 6 months. I was like, I'm telling you. And then so I was kind of freaking out right in the beginning of coronavirus because I was like, no, like the game, it taught me, like the Olympics got canceled. That happens in the game, like all these. And so then I really had to like stop for a minute and like come back to reality. Be like, okay, hopefully, right, all of humanity is not wiped out. That's really just a game. And then I got to a place where I was like, okay, so if I know that this is going to be a long haul, what can I do now? Right? I'm very much a person who likes to make plans, likes to prep, likes to do all that stuff. So like to Kimmy's point, right, I just did more of who I am, right? I prepped for things. I made plans. I was like, before people were even worrying about like going to buy toilet paper and stuff, we had already stocked up our refrigerator. I was like, this makes me feel safe. This makes me feel better. I was like, I don't think things are going, as haywire as a lot of people think they are. I was like, but I do think that this is going to be a long haul. And so like, it really helped me to just like kind of know ahead of time. So thank God for that game. It's still weird, right? But it really did help be able to do, right, what is more of me, which is just like slow and steady, make a plan, stick to it, and then just ride that out. And so, yes, very much like do what is best for you, know yourself, honor your limits, for sure. Okay, ladies, so any last thoughts or questions? I did post all of your contact information for your websites and your Instagram in the comments, but any last thoughts or anything that you would like to say to everyone watching?
Well, thank you guys for coming and showing up for yourself. This is very important in this time. And I hope that everyone stays safe and well during.
Absolutely. Thank you. Kimmy, any last words?
Just, keep shining your light. Just keep shining your light. And if you looking for some light, we're all here shining ours. And so we would love to have a conversation. Definitely want to offer an opportunity if anyone needs that conversation, that we are, three of us are available to have that. And I genuinely feel that. And so I just never want people to feel like they're alone. I do have a philosophy that we are better together. And thank you, Monique, for hosting this, bringing this conversation to light. And I look forward to hearing the stories of who's helped by this conversation. And so blessings to you.
Thank you. Thank you, ladies, so much. Bye. Okay, so thank you all so much for tuning in to the Becoming Well Summit. I am so blessed and so grateful to have you all here. I do want to let you know about some things that are coming up with Becoming Enriched. I'm actually going to be doing another virtual wellness event, which will be March 28th. I will be putting more information up about that, but you will be able to find that on my website, www.becomingenriched.com. And this is just like a prelude to what that is going to be. It's going to be much bigger. There's going to be more speakers. I'm going to be teaching you guys. This is going to be an active class, right? We're going to be in there. I want you to bring yourself. It's going to be involved. I'm going to be teaching how to meal prep. I know a lot of people have been really struggling during this coronavirus time with all this, have access to your fridge all the time. So we're going to be talking about how do we meal prep. There's going to be conversations about nutrition, about mental wellness, about your career and business and how to move yourself forward, personal development. So you definitely do not want to miss that. If you are interested in being a speaker at this event, please go ahead and send me a message through Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, however you like, and I can send you that speaker sign up form If you're interested in being a vendor, because each vendor will have a virtual booth where you will be able to contact and really engage with the people who are at the event. So if you're interested in being a vendor, you can also message me and I will send you our vendor sign up form. I am so blessed to really have this platform. One of the things that I knew that I wanted was to start making opportunities for people of color who are really, like as Kimlin said, like shining a light on the things that we need, right? On our health, on our wellness, on like making sure that we are becoming enriched, right? Becoming the best versions of ourselves. And I really hope that you all were able to get something out of this. If so, let me know. I welcome all of the comments, all the feedback, and anything how we can improve. So please stay blessed. Have a wonderful day. Peace and progress to you all. Thank you and much love to you. Bye.